Testing. Testing 1 2. Testing. Testing 1 2. 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 Testing 1 2. Testing the sound. Here we are. Anybody here? Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Alright. Let's see how deep this goes. Audio only. How's everybody doing? Hi, sir. From Bangladesh. Nice. Hello. Testing. Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Hey, hi. Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, sure. I can hear you.
Nice. If you're in the meet, you might want to mute the live stream because you're going to get audio from both places. Could be confusing. Hello. So how are you all doing? Where are you located? Someone's from Bangladesh.
Yes, sir. I'm from Bangladesh. My name is
Nice.
Asghar Sani.
Good to meet you.
Yes, sir. I was like waiting long time to meet you.
Oh, really? Have you seen
Yes,
my
sir.
videos or learned coding?
Of course, sir. Of
Nice.
course. Actually, actually,
Yeah, if you're in the meeting and the live stream, if you might want to mute the live stream because you're going to get lagged audio, lagged sound.
okay, sir. I just closed it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear you've seen my videos and learned some stuff. Are you practicing like data viz making
Yes,
things?
sir. I am in a Indian company. I'm doing internship, and my main task is to create a custom Power BI visual, which
Oh,
is using
nice.
D3. Yes.
Very nice. So you can write JavaScript code and embed that into Power BI. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, but I
Amazing.
am like, yes, I am like fresher, very fresher, sir.
Yeah, I see. Very nice. I've heard that's possible. I've never done that myself. I've never worked on anything like that, but I've heard it's possible, and it's a great idea to extend Power BI with custom stuff.
Our whole company is based on that.
I see. Nice.
So, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. This is the first live event I've done for a long time, and I'm looking forward to see what happens and see if some kind of community can come together around D3 again. We had a great community years ago in like 2015, but since then a lot has changed. So I'm really curious to see who comes and how this goes.
Yes, sir. You took a long break
Yes, I
between
did.
the black and white.
Yeah, get it right in black and white. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was a good
I
one.
was following you back then.
Really? Ah.
Yes, sir. Actually, you are the first one who, like, I followed you to like. You created a bar chart using D3 using React.
Hmm.
Whole series on that. I was practicing that.
Really nice.
Yes.
Well, hopefully this will be the first of many meetups that we do with D3 here. I want to get feedback on this thing I'm going to present, and I hope to make this a pattern that I use for future stuff, um, because it's very generic and it can work with different frameworks and things like that. So, are you using React or anything like that?
I used React for web development, sir,
Uh,
but not right now.
I
Actually.
see.
So hey Karan,
Hello.
Saurav here. Oh,
Hello. Yeah, great to meet you.
yeah. So just wanted to know how is D3 is different from other graph uh, plotting libraries like high charts, or there are multiple like Apache charts and everything. So how is it different from them?
Yeah, that's a great question. D3 is pretty low level. It gives you kind of building blocks, and it does not give you any high level chart components. So there's nothing in D3 that says, like, here's the pie chart component. You have to build that from the pieces. And many of those libraries are built on top of D3, and they build higher level abstractions. But some of those, like high charts you mentioned, that's a nice, very old product that is not open source. You have to pay for it. You have to pay to use it. And there are a number of products like that where you can use chart components, but you have to pay some kind of a fee to license the software and use it. But D3 is totally open source, so you don't have any of those licensing issues around D3. But yeah, the main difference is D3 is low level building blocks, but some of those other packages are more high level, off the shelf, ready to use components. Does that make sense?
Yes, Karan, that's makes pretty much me the answer. So okay, so the after that I will come to the second question. So like If we are going for a D3, like any charting library, how should we decide it out based on the my requirement? Should I go for a D3 library, or should I go for a any already available libraries like Apache charts, or something like something more or less like high chart? So it's not like something like open source kind of thing.
Right. Well,
How do we decide
yeah,
it out?
it depends. It depends a lot on your requirements.
Okay.
But broadly speaking, um, if the requirement is something that is, does not have to be particularly polished or particularly custom, like if you just need to show some data, those off-the-shelf tools are often a better choice than D3 because you can get something working fast. And if
Mm-hmm.
your requirements are in a place where there's budget available to pay for something like licenses for high charts, then high charts might be the best choice for the job because with those, you can make something really quickly. That's really the benefit of a lot of those libraries is that you
Mm-hmm.
can you can take your data and just instantiate the library and you get something immediately on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. But oftentimes I've found that you hit this wall of abstraction, meaning whatever configuration parameters the authors of that library thought of, that's the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that you can do with it. And so if you want to make something very custom that's not
Okay.
one of the components available, or if you want to add custom interactions like brushing or selecting or some subtle interactions that are not provided for by the library, that's when it might make sense to start using D3.
Mm-hmm.
And a common workflow is to get something to show up with an existing high level library just to explore the data. So there are different phases of projects too, right? Like if you have data and you just have to get something to show up, using a library makes a ton of sense. But that's usually just the first pass of it, the first version. And then once you find something that works and you want to customize it, then you might turn to D3 to reproduce what you've got working with the chart library and then customize it. Because with D3, if you build it with D3, it's harder to get something to show up. And it's harder to get it to a point where it's presentable. But once you do, it's like infinitely customizable. And that's the real benefit of building with D3.
Okay. Okay. So today's agenda, you are targeting to how do we integrate it out D3 in a any library like React JS or Vue.js or Angular, something like that, or how? What are you targeting out?
Yeah, today I'm looking at this pattern that I've figured out uh, using state and set state, which originally came from React. But here
Okay.
I've got it instantiated with vanilla JavaScript, and one thing I love about it is that it works with hot reloading. And I've become a little bit obsessed with this idea of hot reloading because it's just so cool. It gives
Mm-hmm.
you instant feedback on the code, and so
Mm-hmm.
I want, and also I'm working on this book with reference implementations with D3 for various types of charts. And I realized
Oh,
that if I use this pattern that I'm about to present with this pre-recorded video,
okay.
then it's easy to wrap those implementations as components in various different frameworks. Like you could wrap it as a React component, or you could wrap it as a Vue component or a Svelte component. And all of those
Mm-hmm.
things I want to build out examples of. I don't have the examples of all of those quite yet. But yeah, this is pretty much how to get hot reloading working with Vite and D3. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I haven't used Vite in my IT experience. I have used Webpack and Parcel. So
Right. Yeah. Very
those,
similar.
okay, yeah.
Very, very similar. I don't know if they have hot reloading APIs.
No, so I believe for Parcel, we have a hot reloading, and
Nice.
for Webpack, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Webpack does support hot reloading. But
Okay.
maybe just for, well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not very experienced with Webpack, to be honest.
Oh,
Oops. Let me see if I can share my screen while I'm live streaming. I think it's going to work. I'm glad you all joined so early. It gives me a chance to test out this setup here. But can you see my screen? Can you see?
yes, Guru.
You can see it?
Yes, yes.
So this is one of the demos I want to do towards the end of the meetup. But this shows this editor that I've got going here, and then you can click to move the circle around, and then you can hold down the Alt key and drag these numbers and see these things change continuously, and it's not refreshing the page at all. And you can click to put the circle somewhere, and it maintains that state, but you can hot reload the code into that state and into those existing DOM elements. And this is the pattern of working that I'm just really excited about.
This looks cool. So what kind of editor you're using over here? So
Yeah, this is I'm going to get into it during the event, but just oh, actually
okay.
I should put the link. Oh, I should put the link here. But this is an open
Because
source editor that I created called VZ
oh,
Code.
okay.
And the way this is set up, let me just show you real quick. The way this is set up is it's a Vite project, but it also has a dependency on this project called VZ Code. And then it does cd viz and then VZ Code, which opens up an editor to this subdirectory where you just see this one file.
Okay.
And so, yeah, this VZ Code thing is something I created to sort of experiment with this hot reloading and adding these interactive widgets to it. But you could easily use, whatever editor you want. You just wouldn't get this cool slider thing.
No, so that option of dragging out and uh, just picking up that variable and changing it out, which
Yeah,
that is a key feature.
it's really cool, and it's just this open source project called CodeMirror
Okay.
Interact. Like
Okay.
they built this thing, this part of it, but I wired it up to
No.
this editor environment that saves it to the file system.
Okay. So this is as a shipped as a React component or
No,
any.
this is a CodeMirror extension, and
Okay.
CodeMirror is the editor that I'm using, which is this awesome open source web-based code editor component.
Okay.
But you could just just as easily use VS Code to edit the
Yeah.
files.
So, so I'm pretty much handy with the VS Code. So this
Right.
is actually good to know.
Yeah, I figure most people are. So yeah, let me actually add the link to
Yeah.
this into the meetup so people can get to it. I think I put a comment, but Okay, great. Well, this will be kicking off in 14 minutes. Let's see if anybody else joins the Google Meet.
Sure.
Oh, hello from Algeria. Nice. I'll put some background music while we wait. Is it a bad idea to plot 45k points on a map? Well, not necessarily. Maybe. I mean, it's pushing the limits of graphics, but you could try aggregating that. Hex bins or something. Oops. All right. I'm going to be live in 7 minutes.
It's time to improve your
Oh, geez.
writing.
Hello. I think somebody joined.
Comes forth with the keys of consciousness transformation.
Oh, I thought I set it up to automatically admit people. Hello.
Hi, sir. Sir, can I ask one small question before the premiere starts?
Yeah, sure.
Can you please explain me the d3.stack function? I find it a bit confusing.
D3 dot. Which one?
Stack. Stack.
Stack. Oh, gosh. Yeah, D3 stack is one of the more confusing ones.
Even you find it
Oh, yeah, it's
confusing?
always super confusing.
Oh my god.
So the way
Actually, I am in a project and
yeah,
stuck in like 2 days for it.
really?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I
I was
remember.
trying to, yes, sir.
Huh.
I was trying to create a stack to group bar chart, which is animated in the observable.
Hmm.
So that is the problem.
Yeah, it can be difficult to adapt those examples to your data, especially with this, because sometimes, often with stack, the data is not in the right format. Like, I've often had to use stack, but the data comes into format that's different than this, that where you have like maybe month and then another column called type, and then the values are
Yes.
apples, bananas, cherries, and so on. So often to make this work, you first have to pivot the data table. So it can be really tricky. Yeah. But yeah, the documentation is pretty good. Main thing is to get your data into this format in the first place, and then you should be able to pass it into Stack, and then you have to specify the keys in the right way. And then, I always love to just console.log the results at every step just to make sure I understand the structure of what's going on. So that helps work through it. But yeah, it's always super, super difficult to get something to work with Stack. But once you do, you have a template and you can make it work again in the future. Yeah, I can't go into that much detail, but that's my thoughts on Stack. But it's a great topic. I mean, I would love to do a feature video on Stack, and just step through
Yes,
it
sir. Please do.
step by
Please.
step, figuring out how it works and how to use it.
Sure, sir.
Cool. So this is a pre-recorded video. I'm just gonna let it play through, and then it'll be like a half hour roughly, and then we'll have live Q&A after that. And then anyone who wants to show off something that they're working on can do that at the show and tell at the end of the hour. So yeah, I'll see you all on the other side.
Sounds great.
This should start up any second now. All right, here we go. Got some people joining. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Kern.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're doing this meetup again.
Oh, yeah, me too. It's been a long time. All right, here we go.
Yeah, I saw your... Oh, yeah, you can go.
Oh, what is this? This is cool. It's like a YouTube fancy thing. So as I was saying before you folks joined, this is a pre-recorded video. I'm gonna let it play through, and then it's gonna be live after this is done. Actually, don't know what to expect here completely. This is like some kind of YouTube feature of the intro, but so we can hang out until this finishes. And yeah, I hope this setup works for the live stream. But yeah, how y'all doing?
Pretty good.
I feel like I made some mistake in the setup. I didn't know this was gonna play. Now I'm trying to figure out how long is this gonna play. It should be my video.
This seems to be like everything is getting loaded out.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's like we're getting ready.
Iron Man suit.
We're getting ready
Oh,
for
Iron Man
something
suit,
big.
that is. No, so Tony Stark is getting ready in a
Right.
Iron Man.
Exactly. Exactly.
This reminds me of Evangelion.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What is this even from? See, I thought what would happen is that it would play this for like 5 minutes before 3 o'clock, but no, it's after. But anyway,
I also have a question about your meetups.
yeah, shoot.
Are they like episodic or do they build off of each other?
Well, in the past, they've built off each other. But right now, I am seeking a way to make each one sort of stand alone. Do you have a preference?
No, just curious. Just because this is my first one, so just getting my bearings is all.
Totally. I'm getting my bearings too. I mean, this is the first D3 meetup in a long, long time. So,
Nice.
and I don't know how it's going to go, but I do hope to do more of these. And I want to open it up for other people to present and talk about cool stuff they've been doing with D3. So, if you have anything, let me know.
Oh, I can definitely share later.
When was the last meetup?
Oh, months and months ago. It was the last meeting of this group, I believe, was the Get It Right in Black and White series, which was like over a year ago. Maybe even 2 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, super long time.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. That was fun. There was like a consistent group of people that showed up each time, and we would like do live coding. That was a lot of fun. Well, let me see if I can just play the video off my machine. I'm sorry about this. It should have been playing by now. Here it is. Or the music is building. Is it gonna start soon? Come on, come on. Oh yeah, 10-9. Okay, here we go, here we go. All right, everybody, here we go, here we go. Let's get started with Vite. Scaffolding your first Vite project with NPM. Let's try it out. I'm going to paste that command.
I'm also not hearing any audio.
I'm going to call this project. It's on the live stream, but not the Google Meet. D3 template. Select a framework. While we could use Svelte, React, open up the live stream link from the Meetup event. Vanilla JavaScript. All right, it's done. Let's check it out. I'll run npm install and then npm run dev. This is the command to get it started. And then I'll click this link. Hello, Vite. Count as 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's take a look at the files that got generated in VS Code. Main.js is our entry point. This is where that Hello Vite thing was implemented. But I'm just going to get rid of all this because I want to import select from D3 selection. For that to work, I'm going to have to first npm install -s to save it to package.json. D3 selection. All right, now that should resolve. And let's start back up the dev server. And now we see a blank page. Excellent. Let me open up the dev tools because we're going to need them, especially that console. All right, let's make something show up with D3. I got Copilot going, and it's helping me out here. Let's say make a circle. svg.append circle. Set the cx and cy. Set the radius. And set the fill. Beautiful. But select SVG is not going to give us anything. What we really need to do is select the body, which is there, and then append an SVG. Oh, and we have to set the width and the height. Alright, Prettier's making this line way too long here. Let me just stop and make a Prettier RC. Yeah, Prettier is what I'm using here for the automatic formatting. And we can just drop this configuration in here. And I'm pretty sure we can just say print width. Let me set it to 60. Alright, now if we get back here and save, boom, that looks way better. Alright, we are setting up an SVG, giving it some dimensions. I'm going to use 960 by 500 in homage to blocks.org. And then let's see if it runs. Okay, there's our circle. Oh, it looks like a flag or something. Let me make it gray. I can right click and inspect, and we can see that in fact there's the body. There's some stuff. Ooh, maybe this SVG should go inside of that div. But anyway, the SVG is there and it's working. Yeah, Vite provisions this index.html that has this ID of app div. And while we're here, let me change the title. Vite D3 starter template. Let's put this SVG inside of this app div. Instead of the body, I'm going to select that app. The hash will select by ID. And there we go. Our SVG is inside of our div. Alright, here's where the real fun begins. What I want to have happen is that when I save this file, that should hot reload without refreshing the page. Currently what's happening is it's refreshing the page. I don't like that approach because as things scale up in complexity, it may take a while to load up the whole thing, and especially if you've interacted to get to a certain state, I would rather still just be in that state and then have the code hot reload in place using the existing DOM nodes and the existing state. So how can we do that? Hot reloading allows you to make changes to your code and immediately see the results. We can do this with the HMR API. HMR means Hot Module Replacement. Notably, this is already done if you're using React for sure and other frameworks. But since we're using vanilla JavaScript, we have to set this up ourselves. A module that accepts hot updates is considered an HMR boundary. Whoa. There's also a way to accept updates from direct dependencies. So let's say we import some module. It has a function that should be called. If we're inside Vite, we can accept a new version of that file. And then that will be, I guess, imported, and the same thing that comes out here as foo will come here as new foo.foo. Let's try this out and see if we can get it working. I'm going to copy this code and bring it into our code. All this DOM manipulation we do, I want all this inside of a function so that we can move this into a whole different file. And this will become the thing that we import. And because we're doing stuff with D3, let's call it viz. Why not? So we're going to be importing viz from viz.js. And then I'll take this and move it into a new file called viz.js. And this viz, I'm thinking, would accept a container. which is the DOM element. This way, you could import this viz function into some other context, like a huge product or an existing project, and it would all work, and it would just inject itself into the DOM element you provide. Over in main.js, we will be importing viz and then calling it with app. So let's see if that refactoring worked, regardless of the hot reloading stuff. All right, we got a select is not defined. Got to add that import back in here. All right, we're good to go. Now, let's try to get this hot reloading working. It says here it can also accept an array of dep modules. Don't need that. All we want to do is support hot reloading of this one module, viz.js. I'll call it new viz. And notice how it says new foo question mark? Foo? I guess this is the module that has the named exports on it. So what I would want to do here is say new viz dot viz and then call that with app. All right. This should work. The moment of truth. If I put these side by side and change something and save, whoa, it worked. But it didn't do what we expected. We solved the problem of integrating with Vite's hot module replacement API. Now we have to solve an entirely other challenge, which is to write hot reloadable code with D3. When we select this container and append an SVG, that's exactly what it does. It's going to append a new SVG. So that's why we end up with 2 here. Clearly that's not what we want. We want to reuse the existing SVG. To do that, we need a different pattern here. The pattern we need is select container dot data. We're going to use D3's data join. And look at that. Copilot suggests array of 1. Sure. That's exactly right. It's like we're doing the data binding thing, but instead of, rows in a CSV file, we just have this array of one thing because we want to trigger the enter, update, and exit stuff with just one thing. For that, we can use the dot join SVG syntax. Now what this is going to do is the first time through it will create the SVG, and then the second time through, when it hot reloads, it's going to select the existing SVG. And sure, it'll write the width and the height again, but that's all right. I'll leave a note here. This pattern breaks, but let's put it to the test. When I load it, I see that it didn't quite work. It never made an SVG element. Just put the circle straight in that div. Alright, we're missing a piece here. That's the select all SVG. Alright, and I saved, and the hot reloading worked. Let me refresh the page just to get a clean slate here. Okay, our SVG is inside of our div. We have a circle. And now if we change the position of this circle and save, the hot reloading worked, but now we have 2 circles. We need to apply the same pattern over here. svg.selectAll circle.data1.join circle. Now if we change this, it works. Alright, we've basically solved the problem of hot reloading with D3. But let me do something extra cool and fun, which you can only do with hot reloading, which is to transition these things. Yeah, transition is not a function because we need to import it. npm install -s d3 transition. Start up the dev server. Still not a function. Alright, let's see what the readme has to say. I guess we import transition and then make a new instance of it. Let me try that. This example here sets the duration and the ease, and then we pass it in to selection.transition. Let's try this. All right, let's make that transition. There it is. It's called T. And then now that we imported something from this package, I think as a side effect or something, this is kind of something weird in the way these packages work. It adds this method to the D3 selection that we created with select here. It's some kind of magic going on, but let's see if we can make this work. Oh, it says D3 is not defined. Right, that's because we imported transition. We should probably import ease linear too. And we got to import it from D3 ease. And that's another thing we should npm install. Okay, mise en place. That should give us everything we need for this to work. If I refresh this page, all right, it transitioned in. But what I really want to test here, if it will transition the hot reloading. If I change the radius to 100 and hit save, boom, look at that. It worked. We can even set a longer duration on this transition, like 5 seconds. And check this out. We can kick off one reloading and then do another in the meantime. And it's transitioning both of them. So this is completely epic. This is the way I want to be working. And yeah. I hope this can be a useful template for people. But what about interaction? What if we want to build something like this? A circle that follows the mouse around. I made a video where I built up that example about 6 months ago. What I'd like to try doing is instantiating this mouse follower inside of our Vite hot reloading example. The main difference is the signature of viz, which takes a second argument in addition to the container, the DOM element. The second argument is an object that has two properties, state and setState. And then when we move the mouse, we call setState to track the X and Y position, which is then fed back as state.x and y, which we unpack here and then use to position the circle. That's how this mouse following interaction happens. So let's go ahead and migrate this into our Vite example. The first step is to introduce state. Back in our Vite example, let me just put this right here, state. And this will be passed into the viz as the first argument. So we have to pass it in there and also over here because we want consistency between these two. And then we need setState, which is defined in this example as a function that takes as input next, which is a function that takes as input the previous state and generates the new state. And then render is invoked. And then render calls the viz with the container. Maybe we should just pull in all this stuff. Yeah, that would fix the duplication between here and here. Alright, I just pasted all this stuff in. Now we need to define container. And I think I'll bite the bullet and select the actual DOM element here. Now we can get rid of this. And to handle the hot reloading, we want to capture the same logic of if it's a valid module. So if the new viz is there, then I want to replace the definition of viz here. So let me set that up as follows. Let viz equals original viz. And we can import viz as original viz over here. This is renaming on import. That way, viz refers to this variable here, which can change over time because we used let to declare it. So if there is a new viz that was hot reloaded, we can just say viz equals new viz.viz. And then to propagate that update, we can call render. All right, let's see if this runs. Oh, it looks like I missed a step, which is the first render. So I'll just call render for the first time. And there comes our little circle. Let me test out the hot reloading by going over here and changing the radius. And sure enough, it seems to work. Now we can start bringing in parts of the viz implementation from the mouse follower example, such as setting the width and the height of the SVG based on the size of the window. This is sweet. This is really how it needs to be done for responsive visualizations. Alright, here's our viz example, which I'm going to gut. I'm going to gut this example. I'm going to clear it out and bring in the new elements, like the width and the height, which I'm just going to paste. And then the second argument here needs to be state and set state. I'll bring in this mouse move handler, drop it right here. And then I'll grab this piece that unpacks the state and then sets the initial state. I'll drop it right here. And finally, we want to use X and Y to position our circle. I'll get rid of this transition and use X and Y here. I'll set the radius to 50 and use the default fill of black. Alright, here it is. I refreshed the page and it got the original position, the initial position, and when I move the mouse, it does move. There is a bit of an offset though. I think that's the default margin coming in. And we're just using event.x and y from the mouse event, which these are not always the most accurate. See how the circle is a bit off? There is a D3 pointer utility for just this purpose, for getting the exact right coordinates. We can import pointer from D3 selection. And then over here, we could say const xy equals pointer of event. And then call set state with x and y, just like that. Alright, fits nicely on one line. That should hopefully fix the alignment issue. And it does. Look at that. Dead center on the cursor. Amazing. And while we're at it, let me fix that pesky issue about this default margin. Over in main, we can import style.css, which I'll create as a new file. And I think the margin is on the body. Let me just try setting margin of 0 like that. And look at that. No more gap. But we get these scroll bars that I don't think need to be there. I'm going to try to get rid of those scroll bars by saying overflow hidden. And now look at that. It goes all the way up to the corners on all the sides, and we don't have any scroll bars. Awesome. This is the way a data viz should be. And wouldn't it be cool if this whole thing responded to resize? As it is now, if I resize the window, see how that SVG is still there? It doesn't automatically expand. But when I move the mouse over the SVG, it does. Because every time it re-renders, it resets the width and the height of the SVG to the size of the window. Responding to resize is something that we really need for responsive visualizations. Like, we need to know what the latest width and height is in order to position everything properly. So let's try responding to resize here. Let's assume there's state.width and state.height. And if there is no width, we want to initialize the state to have the width and height from window.innerWidth and window.innerHeight. At this point, we return because the call to set state triggers another call to render, which takes over control flow at this point. If we don't return here, there will be bugs. But that's just the initial size. What about responding to changes? We need to listen for resize events. So every time the window resizes, we set the state again to update the width and height. And notice that we're passing ... state. That will preserve every other property on the state. For example, the X and Y position of the circle. To test that out, I'm going to make it change the position of the circle when you click instead of every time you move the mouse. So I'll just change that event name to click. So I refreshed the page and now it's not following my mouse, but if I click, it does move. And check this out. If I put it here and I move this, whoa, it resizes. The SVG is resizing. That's fantastic. All right, to wrap it up, I want to bring back those cool transitions and just show the fun you can have with hot reloading. So I want to bring back the transitions. Bring back that easing. We'll create one of those transitions. And let's make it 5 seconds. It's going to be super fun. So let's find where we're making those circles. And here, let me do that transition. So what happens now? If I load the page, it transitions, which is not really what I want. You know, I wanted to initialize in the right place. So I guess instead of just doing this very coarse-grained join, we can specify what happens on enter, which is, yes, append the circle, and also set the CX and CY. And then we specify update to just do nothing, and then exit to remove the circles. Although that never happens in this case. So now if I reload the page, it reloads in the right spot. And now when I click, oh, too late, already running.
That's a good one, right?
I don't know what that's about. This indicates to me that there's some issue around instances of the transition. Maybe the thing to do is to create a new instance of the transition for each time we render. I'll just move that into this function. And actually, let me just move it down to right before we use it. Right here. Let's see if that solves it. Oh, it started moving with the hot reloading. Interesting. So if I refresh and I click, boom. Okay, it works. No errors. Brilliant. So here's the real test. Can the transition to X and Y also happen simultaneously with a transition of like the radius from the hot reloading? So if I make the radius 200, yes. Yes, these are going in parallel. That's fantastic. So I can click and then change this to 2 and then click again and it's all happening. And then let me try setting up a color. So it changed color. I'll bring back the radius to be 100. And then I'm going to install this VS Code color picker extension real fast. Alright, so imagine you're doing work for a client, you built up this cool data viz, you're giving a demo, you know, maybe selecting some things in menus, and then the client says, hey, can we change the color of those dots? And you're like, sure, let me just pull up my handy dandy color picker here. And there you go. The colors will transition in real time. And, it preserves the state that you were at. So this kind of thing, I think is just amazing. I think this is the future of how this sort of work is done. The hot reloading, I think it's really, really clutch. So, all right. I hope this is a useful starter template for people. And as I look through here, I just want to clean it up and always not destroy the previous state. So I'm just going to make a couple small final tweaks here. Then I'll make a commit to the open source repository. I'll make a pull request called mouse follower. I'll merge it in and link to that PR from the README as the second part of our progression. The first part of the progression being the initial hot reloading example. And you can view these pull requests as reference examples. So yeah, there it is. Vite D3 template. Feel free to try to use this and even, submit pull requests if you have some ideas. I think I'll continue to maintain this going forward as a reference example, and I might add various things into it. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.